trail. But first, as Republicans try to get their house in order tonight, the Democrats may be heading towards chaos, but there are potential solutions. Mitt Romney bowed out of the race this afternoon, leaving a clear path for John McCain to become the Republican nominee. The Arizona senator also trying to make nice today at the Conservative Political Action Conference, a vocal wing of the party that hasn't always seen eye to eye with McCain. But as Republicans make amends, Democrats appear headed for mayhem. We continue our campaign tonight to try to make sure the Democratic voters, not party insiders known as superdelegates, ultimately make the decision between Obama and Clinton. Tonight, the delegate count still being sorted out. Obama now leads with 861 pledged actual delegates. Hillary Clinton with 855. And in close third, the 796 superdelegates. Yes, the superdelegates. The Democrats in Congress, the governors, the members of the Democratic National Committee, the VIPs, who hold nearly 40% of the necessary votes needed to win the nomination. So far, nearly 18.5 million people have voted in the Democratic primaries and caucuses. More than 1,800 delegates have been awarded. That means a delegate is worth approximately 10,000 votes. And then there are the 1.5 million voters from Florida who don't count because party officials decided Florida shouldn't count. And now those same power brokers decide whether it's Obama or Clinton. I'll say it again, scrap the superdelegates. If the superdelegates have to vote, then let them just reflect the voters of their state or district. Here with us, Congressman Adam Smith, Democrat from Washington, and a superdelegate who is supporting Obama. Rachel Maddow, MSNBC political analyst and Air America radio host, and Peter Beinart from the Council on Foreign Relations and author of the book, The Good Fight. All right, Adam, can you possibly justify your vote being worth 10,000 of the voters' votes?
Absolutely not. I don't think we should have superdelegates. It was something that was put in back in 1982 as sort of a reaction, as I understand it, to the Jimmy Carter-Ted Kennedy battle that had happened in the 1980 election.
So would you call to get rid of them? Would you call to get rid of them?
Absolutely.
All right. So
yes,
you'd be happy to get rid of them. And then I got to ask you the follow-up question. If you can't get rid of them, in your state of Washington, the voting has not occurred yet. You've been helping on Obama.
Coming up on Saturday, yes.
Right. Now, you've been working for Barack Obama. If your state or your district goes for Hillary Clinton, will you then vote for Hillary Clinton?
Not unilaterally, no. I mean, I would support a solution that basically tells the superdelegates, look, we're going to have a certain number of pledged delegates when all this is over. Whichever candidate has the most pledged delegates is the candidate who should be supported. That's the choice of the people. And I will say this, as a superdelegate, if Hillary Clinton has more pledged delegates, then I would be one of those people saying superdelegates should support her, as I would hope Senator Clinton's supporters would do the same for Barack Obama.
Let's be clear. You're saying that if among the non-superdelegates, meaning among the voters' delegates, if more of them going into the convention have supported Hillary Clinton than Barack Obama, you are going to say support Hillary Clinton?
I think that's the right thing to do.
I think it's the right thing to do, too. And I'm happy to hear you say it. All right. So Peter Beinart, look, we have a respected superdelegate on the program who won't even defend superdelegates.
I didn't create them. I'm just one of them.
I understand that. I mean, you know, can somebody here explain to me?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Peter. 40%. I mean, they can. Go ahead.
Here's the reason the superdelegates are useful. You need 50% to win. Not a plurality. Most elections in America, you only need a plurality. But to win the nomination, you need a majority. Let's say there are 3 or 4 candidates, and the leading candidate gets 35% of the vote. That means that nobody's going to get 50%. One of the reasons for superdelegates was that they would go with the winner to put you over 50%. There are better ways of doing that, but it's worth noting that if you have proportional representation and you demand a majority, you're headed for trouble down the road at some point.
You're not headed for trouble, though. You're just headed for a second vote. I mean, there's all sorts of parliamentary ways.
Well, that's a brokered convention. Let's be clear about what that's a brokered convention. Let's be clear about that.
Hang on a second. Look, if there's a tie, Rachel, I am happy for some group of party elders or VIPs, and the Adam Smiths will all get together, and they will say, you know what, we've got to make a decision here because there's a tie. I'm fine with that. But absent a tie, it seems to me that you've got an insane system in place where they have so much power. There are so many of them that I think that a lot of people didn't know this going into the process.
I'm not happy with the idea of the Council of Elders taking over in the case of a tie. I mean, elections are sometimes about things being very close, and you let the voters decide. And in this case, you let the voters' delegates decide. I don't think there needs to be a star chamber, some group of wise men to put the brakes on what the voters are going to decide. It could get messy. It could be a process that takes a long time. That's okay.
Here's why it's going to be messy, because people, honest brokers like Adam Smith, are still unwilling to say that he will vote for whichever candidate wins in his state or district. I mean, Adam, that's the problem, is it not? Is that you're not willing to go forward and take a stand and say, I'm going to set the stage here, and say, the way that Barbara Boxer has, for example.
Well, again, let me say that, as I said, I'm willing to support whoever the pledged delegates select nationwide. The problem with what you describe is it takes on a certain unilateral aspect to it.
You won't be first. Adam, you won't be first. Here's Senator Boxer on Hardball answering this very question.
Right.
I've decided that the people of my state are going to lead me, and whoever they choose, I will cast my superdelegate vote in that way.
All right? So why don't you just follow her lead, Adam?
Well, I haven't officially decided whether or not I'm going to do that. I thought I was making the magnanimous gesture there to say whoever's ahead of the pledged delegates.
I know, but that's not enough for me.
I haven't taken it down that next further road and said, well, what happens if my state goes this way, goes that? What if my state goes one way, but my congressional district goes the other way? And the other aspect of this, there are some superdelegates who don't actually have a constituency. You mentioned, I think it was mentioned earlier, that Tom Foley is a superdelegate. He doesn't have a constituency. Who should he follow?
Let me tell you about the absurdity of this, all right? You got a Teamsters member, superdelegate. You got the president of the United Federation of Teachers. You got an attorney who represents the Washington State Democratic Party. You got an Oregon political activist and blogger. I mean, you know, this is nuts. These people have the equivalent of 10,000 votes each.
And that tells you, that list tells you that this is designed to be a council of elders that's designed to make things better when the voters don't do the right thing.
Well,
but see, but
it's so insulting. It's worth noting here that the vast majority of these superdelegates are elected. In fact, most of them are elected by a much broader cross-section of the population than the small group of activists who tend to turn out.
But they weren't elected. But they weren't. Wait, Peter. They weren't elected to vote on the presidential candidate.
No, I agree. I agree. But it's still worth noting that they, by their very livelihood, have to represent public opinion.
I mean, you've got Democratic Party members.
The vast majority of them are elected.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know
governors,
but here's the problem,
elected
Peter.
members of House.
Here's the problem, Peter. There is going to be a crisis of confidence. Okay, if people don't talk about this, we're going to have another Bush v. Gore coming out of the convention. People are going to claim it was unfair. They're going to say that the people weren't represented. And I feel like, you know, I'm the sole voice out there saying, look, let's come to a solution now, today, before it gets too close, before it gets politicized.
The solution has to be more than scrapping the superdelegates, because scrapping them leaves other problems.
What are the problems?
The problems are that if you change it to needing a plurality, then you solve the problem. If you need a majority, I think you're headed for trouble down the road.
How about if you just say whoever has more delegates wins?
Yeah, a plurality. That's what I said.
Yeah, and then we're okay.
That doesn't seem
Look, I'm no great political insider, but that seems like a pretty good solution to me.
I agree.
Go ahead, Representative Smith. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. Basically, whoever has a plurality, it would be a majority in this case of the pledged delegates when we're done with the process. At that point, I think that person should win. And I also want to say this is something that the Democratic Party should resolve sooner rather than later. Well, we don't want to go to the convention at the end of August and still be fighting about this. And I support what Howard Dean has said, that we need to get a solution.
And Representative Smith, I'm going to give you credit right now, because I'm hoping that what you just said is going to lead a movement. It's going to lead a movement of these superdelegates saying we can't matter that much. We have to just support whoever wins among the delegates at large. I hope that today is the beginning of a movement, and that you have begun to lead that movement, because this is too important. It's going to end up being a total mess for the Democratic Party otherwise. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Representative Smith. Appreciate it.